thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be happy to answer more questions or show you the car in greater detail. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Hi, Sarah Mans from the Software. I'm wondering, you explained that the design appeals to the emotion of buying also. And can you explain something about how design influences your portfolio decisions? Because it's not an evident factor sometimes that I read in the literature and I see it in my practice.
You mean the product portfolio of the company?
Yes.
Yeah, well, BMW has actually a tradition of trying to invent new types of cars, or sometimes creating completely new niches. Design is always key in that, actually, because we know that for all the brands that we have, BMW, Rolls-Royce, Mini, the number one reason for purchase is always aesthetics, is always design. People do expect the cars to work very well, but the number one reason is always design. So we've recently introduced a new type of vehicle, 5 Series GT, of which there doesn't really exist a ready-made market segment. And together with the engineers, the design department was instrumental in making this project happen. Does that answer your question?
Could you name one of the kind of metrics, or how do you quantify design? Is it a matter of taste or general feeling within BMW?
This is a good one, because quantifying design is the hardest thing there is. And actually, you know, BMW is a fairly large company, and actually we've recently had discussions about how to measure, let's say, the performance of the design department. You probably are familiar with balanced scorecard and the system and so on. So in our company, we've recently had a discussion about setting up such a system for the design department. I'm not against it. I wish everybody luck trying to set that up. I'm actually going to try and help setting that up, but I see some issues there. It's not so easy, because the cars that are on the road right now, or that we've just launched, like the new 5 Series, we designed 3 years ago. Clearly, you know, how well those cars are selling would be one indicator of our design performance, this is for sure. But it would be the performance of 3 years ago. Show cars are a bit more direct. We designed it last year, it was shown last year, and you can measure, let's say, how often it showed up in the media and what was said about it in the media. But there's probably more to it than that. So the one thing that BMW knows for sure is that every customer, when asked what was the number one reason why they bought the product, is always design. So with that, the company or the top management always tells me, or at least once a week, remember, everything depends on you. At the same time, there's not much more than that they can say. They are not designers. And so in one way or another, they have to trust my team and myself, and they do. But okay, that is probably more what you're talking about. Here and then in the back, I think, yeah.
All right. You seem to have performed this project with much shorter lead time than typically.
Yeah.
We have, as you know, a conference here related to open innovation.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that enabled this short lead time? And in particular, were there any external partners that you used this time that have not been used previously, that enabled you to reduce lead time?
No, actually, this came from within, and it came from actually a very small group of people, I would say, a key engineer and some designers, of which I was one, basically sitting together and saying, we really have to address the single biggest topic that is floating around right now. There's nothing else that is more important than that, because we actually saw, and that is typically, I think, what fuels innovation or picks up the speed. We saw the very core of the brand, of what we do, under threat in that sense. That then, you know, paired to the fact that the meeting was not too large, let's say a small group, that was then given also the freedom to pull this off very quickly. It took 9 months to create this, and we didn't have to go through any official, I would say, committees or sign-offs in the process. We were just told, okay, the end date needs to be such and such date in September, and we informed the rest of the company, the top management, of the goals of our project, but then there was no intermediate reviews at all. There was no time for that. So the company put a lot of trust, a lot of faith in the team doing this. Of course, our CEO knew that whatever we were doing, he was going to stand right next to it in the press conference, and he did more than that. But he jumped out of it, he loved it. But yeah, there was a lot of trust being placed in this small team.
How big would it be?
The team that built this, I would say, if you add them all up, it would be no bigger than 30 people.
30.
While this car looks beautiful and it's a very different looking car, but at the end of the day we are still working with an ecosystem where a box takes us around, box on 4 wheels. Are you looking at, have you upstreamed design to such strategy, the thinking where, how do I consume a car? Could actually give me a different answer, that I don't have to buy it, buy a unit that I purchase, and the way it gets measured, apart from the power and the design, that there is a new value parameter out there, and the whole ecosystem has changed. Rather than working on the same ecosystem, the box keeps changing.
Yeah. No, I think I understand what you mean. I mean, the car that you see here, I would say, is from a concept point of view, it's a supercar, and this is a known category. It is just done in a completely different way. It's our vision of a supercar of the future. So the concept is not new, but the way it's done is completely new, I believe. This would not be the ideal city vehicle, let's put it that way. This is more a car that you could drive out of the city and then go a long distance with. We are working on what we call a mega city vehicle as well, which of course would have a much smaller footprint and which would probably be zero emission only. It will still have 4 wheels, but I think it will be quite revolutionary when it comes out. And then working for BMW, you know that we make 2-wheeled vehicles as well. So we have, I think, unique possibilities to come up with anything in between. 2, 3-wheel, narrow lane vehicles. These are all things that we are looking at. Our goal in our company is to become a provider of premium mobility, whatever that means, and that also includes different business models. People do not have to own. They can lease or something like that. That's already happening today. But we're looking at very different models for people to come in contact with our products as well. And then last but not least, talking as a designer, because this was all a bit engineering and business related, talking as a designer, I do believe that the new aesthetic that we have experimented with here could be a reset, a value reset. Because if you look at the car world today, certainly in the premium field, it's all about who has the most amount of wood, leather and chrome inside. And if you have a little bit more, then clearly that's a better product. That's the paradigm that the whole industry is working towards right now. Customers are trained to think that way also today, to be fair. In this car there's no wood, there's no chrome, and still I would say people would not think that it's a cheap car. So, while we're at it, creating this whole new revolutionary vehicle, I believe it's a very good opportunity to also create something of a value reset without wanting to overtly state it, because I believe that people don't really like to hear that they have to change their ways, or that they have to let go of something in order to get something else. That has been tried before. People want it all. That's the way it is. But I do believe that an aesthetic change is on its way.
In the car industry, someone working on an absolute reset that challenges even the lanes, wheels and vehicles, and still gives us mobility which is elegantly so simple that it actually doesn't need lanes, wheels and vehicles.
Yes, I think all of these things are being looked at right now. And we're living in a time that I think also the New York Times quote indicates of great uncertainty in that sense. At the moment, the technological solutions seem to diverge. So every day you read about a new concept, a new way of creating mobility, which is actually a very interesting time. You're welcome.